Have you heard the one about the sower, the seed, and the soil? This is a story that Jesus told when he was trying to teach his disciples. It goes something like this. He said that one day a farmer went out to sow some seed. Now you have to picture a farmer taking a bag of seed and scattering it like this. And Jesus said, some fell on the stony path, and the birds came down and ate it up. Some fell on rocky or shallow soil, and it grew for a while, but then when the sun came out it withered because it had no root. Other seed fell among the weeds, which grew up and choked it. And still other seed fell on good soil, fertile soil, where it produced a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Now, initially, the disciples didn't really understand what Jesus was talking about, so later on he explained the parable to them. And he said that the seed that was being sown was the message about the kingdom. But when the farmer had sown the seed along the path, it was like those who heard the message of the kingdom, but before they could really understand it, it was snatched away from them. It was like the message went in one ear and out of the other. The seed that fell along on the shallow soil is like those who hear the message of the kingdom and respond to it initially, but when persecution or suffering or testing times come, then they give up because they haven't got the kind of deep spiritual roots that you need to survive such things. The seed that was sown among the weeds is like those who hear the word of the kingdom and respond to it, but other things choke it out. And the other things that Jesus talks about are the troubles or deceitfulness of wealth and the worries of this life. And it never gets to grow fully grown and bear fruit. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the words and understands it and puts it into practice. They're the ones who produce a spiritual crop, yielding 100, 60, or even 30 times what was sown. So we have the sower, the seed, and the soil. It's very clear from what Jesus says in his explanation that the seed is the message of the kingdom, and therefore the sower, who isn't identified in the parable, is anyone who by word or deed proclaims the kingdom of God. You and I. The seed is the message of the kingdom, and the soil describes different responses to that message. Classically, when telling this story and when preaching on it, the preacher ends up challenging us to think about what kind of soil we might be. Have we put down deep roots? Are we struggling because of the weeds that are choking out the message of the kingdom? Or are we fruitful? But I want to end the story slightly differently, which is, what kind of a sower are we? Are we like the sower that Jesus describes in his time, scattering an abundance of seed? Or are we perhaps being mean and not actually spreading the message of the kingdom, trying to keep it to ourselves? What kind of a sower are we? May we sow the seeds of the word of life abundantly, and may that word bear an abundant harvest. Amen.